Natalie Woo and Ellen Clark King made Cathedral Cat, and it's about my favorite subjects, animals and the cathedral. I mean, it's just can't get better than that. And I did want to remind you also, we have Grace Arts Cultural membership. So if you're not a member of their official cathedral, it's a great way to be part of the life of the cathedral. Is, our cultural membership, which is Grace Arts. But I would love to introduce my colleague, Ellen Clark King, and Natalie Woo. We're looking forward very much to hearing the story and to learning from the two of you how it all came into being.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Rebecca. I'm the Cultural Programs Director here at Grace Cathedral, and I'm going to be prompting this conversation. So I thought it would be fun if we just started off with the reading of this wonderful book. So Ellen and Natalie, take it away.
Thank you all for being here. So we're going to read this. I'm going to read the first half, and then Natalie is going to take over. So if you have a book already, you're very welcome to follow along with the pictures. So the Cathedral Cat. Once upon a time, in a city on a hill, there was a cat. She was a little cat, a speedy cat, a curious cat, a calico cat. But she was not a friendly cat. She spent her days on the streets of the city, hunting and fishing and exploring and meowing, and her nights curled up in the warmest, quietest corner she could find. In the spring, she caught petals that fell from the blossoming trees. During the summer, she danced unseen in the fog. Through the fall, she chased the cable cars as they rattled by. But in winter, the rain came, and she didn't feel like dancing or chasing, and there weren't any blossoms to catch. Her favorite sleeping places were cold and squishy, and she no longer purred herself to sleep.
It led her to some places she hadn't been before, so Calico Cat decided on a new hunt. But she had to leave some of them very quickly. One day she tried a new door, but it was quiet and dry, and they seemed to like animals, and found herself somewhere big and echoey. So she gave a sigh and curled up in one place where she felt especially safe and purred herself to sleep. When she woke up, there was a bowl of food near her nose. And an oddly dressed human being close by, a gentle voice said,
"Hello, Cathedral Cat. Welcome to your new home. Can we call you Grace?"
Now, Grace was still a little cat, a speedy cat, a curious cat, a calico cat. But she also became a friendly cat, and Grace Cathedral became her home.
The end.
The end.
And now I'd like to ask Ellen just to talk a little bit about how she came to write the book.
So, I wrote this back, and it must be nearly 4 years ago now, because it was still while I was here at Grace. It was one summer afternoon, and I think it was one of those days when I'd been talking with somebody on the staff or in the congregation about how we wished there was a cathedral cat, both to just be something that we can pet and love, and also to catch the many mice that hang out in the cathedral offices. I couldn't quite manage to get us a cathedral cat, but it did make me think it could make a really nice basis for a story. And one of the things that has always been so important to me about Grace is the way that we reach out to the community around us, that we welcome people into this space so that it's a sanctuary for anyone who comes looking for calm and quiet and peace. And that we also try and reach out to our unhoused congregation and neighbors and make sure that they know they're valued and loved, and do the practical things of actually offering them food and help with finding housing. So writing a little story about a cat who was lost and homeless on the streets of San Francisco and then found a safe place to be herself here in the cathedral seemed like a really nice way of raising some money to help with our ministries to the unhoused. And it was, it must be said, one of my favorite afternoons at the cathedral, just sitting down and having the story winging through my head and bringing it to life. What I wasn't able to do while I was here, partly because we all got interrupted by COVID, as we know so well, was find anyone to illustrate. I can sort of do words a bit, but there is absolutely no way anyone would want to look at a book which had anything that I had drawn in it. So we began to look for folk, but by the time I left, we hadn't really found anyone who seemed like the right person to bring this story alive. And so then I think we hand over to Natalie and to her place in this story.
Yes, thank you. I first want to say thank you, Ellen, for writing such a beautiful book. Back in January, my cousin who works here, and I didn't know she worked here at that time, Eva, she reached out to me and she said, you know, there's this wonderful book, the story about a lovely cat. And, you know, she finds her place and belonging in San Francisco and at Grace Cathedral. And I said, you know, it'd be an honor to illustrate a book like this if I had a chance to. And I had never written a book before. This is the first time I've ever illustrated a book before. And so I took on the challenge. But what drew me to the story was really the simplicity, but that idea of belonging in a city in Grace Cathedral. And how do I bring that to life was a challenge I wanted to take, but also honor as being someone who's also been a native to the Bay Area. I was born and raised here. My parents, thank you for being here, my family, they used to bring me to San Francisco all the time on the weekends, and we had so many great memories here. So part of it was, as an illustrator, being able to give back to the community, but also, you know, having a passion for doing this in a place where I grew up and being able to share it with all of you. And so that's kind of where the decision came from. And over the past few months, this is actually the first time I've met Ellen. Yeah, this is the first time we've met. And over the past few months, it went pretty quickly. It was a wonderful collaboration with Grace Cathedral. I wanted to maintain the integrity of the story and really keep true to what Ellen has written. And so I took time to learn how to draw a cat. I grew up with dogs. I don't know how many of you have dogs or how many of you have cats. Lots of cat lovers. And so I had friends with cats. I have my son who has 2 cats. I just studied how to draw different cats. And from there came the character development. So how do we develop a calico cat that has some personality? And so you'll see that kind of throughout the story, where the cat kind of goes through a series of feeling lonely to kind of frustrated, angry to elation. And I think that was a process for me to kind of learn how to draw animals. And then from there, kind of taking from memory, but also walking San Francisco, coming to Grace Cathedral, really kind of appreciating the space that has been here for over 100 years, and observing how I can bring the story to life was part of the process. And in the summer, I took some time to do a lot of sketches. My family was wonderful. They were very supportive. We typically go to France in the summertime, but they said, you know what, stay in the summer, focus on this book. And so that's what I did every day in the summertime. So over the course of 4 months, we were able to complete this book, and it was quite quick, but it was just a lovely process and a wonderful collaboration, and I'm really excited for everyone to take a look at it.
And I am so grateful to Natalie. When I left, I thought this was, just an idea that was never going to see the light of day. But then Rebecca and Eva sort of picked this up and ran with it and found the perfect person to bring the story to life. So thank you. It's a real good pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for this.
Yes, thank you.
Just getting in view. Do any of you have any questions for Ellen or Natalie about the book or about how their writing process or illustrating process? Oh, thanks. I'm going to hand you the mic.
Just wanted to know why you chose a calico cat.
Good question. I used to have a calico cat, tortoiseshell, we tend to call them on the other side, and I just love the mix of colours that they have. So that was my choice. It was remembering a little cat called Lindy who we found stuck in a drain in London. So she was a homeless cat who found a home with us.
Quick question about your interaction, your process. In other words, the illustrations, when they were completed, how did you communicate with Ellen? Zoom, email, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
That's a great question. We actually didn't communicate at all. So this is the first time we've met. We met probably 20 minutes, no, 30 minutes ago. Yeah. And so Rebecca, the director of culture here, I was connecting with Rebecca quite often, and it all came together quite nicely.
Yeah, it was sort of, I only saw the completed book in sort of actual real life when I arrived on Wednesday afternoon. So I'd only seen the beautiful illustrations on the screen, and it's so lovely to actually see the real thing and to hold it.
So Ellen, it's so nice to see you back here, and I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about where you are now and if you have a cat there.
Yes, I'm the Dean of King's College London, which is a big university across 4 sites in the central of London, does everything from arts and humanities through to training doctors and nurses and psychiatrists. So about 37,000 students and about 10,000 staff. So big place, big job. It was an Anglican foundation, which is why they have a dean at the heart of it. Wonderful to work with the students and the staff who are so dedicated. Their motto is Sancte et Sapienter, which is holiness and wisdom. And that's what they want to do, knowledge with purpose. So there's holiness there, as well as just the search for research and teaching. And we have 2 cats that we brought home with us from San Francisco. So we have 2 American cats, Georgia and Harper. They are both, they're Burmans, so they're very furry, and they are totally spoiled, and they would not survive 5 minutes on the street, so.
And you had a question?
I actually had a question about your process also. So for Natalie, how did you kind of say more about how you created this gorgeous book?
Thank you for the question. To be honest, I was so nervous, quite terrified, in fact, because the story was very detailed and it was lovely, and I am used to drawing kind of still life for commissions. I've never created kind of a book end to end, and so part of it was understanding the character and then understanding what the essence of the story was, understanding kind of even the cathedral, different places of the cathedral. So the rose stained glass, the different stained glass in the cathedral, the stories, the nativity scene. Kind of doing that research up front was very important. Understanding, okay, what are some of the iconic places in San Francisco? Ghirardelli Square, Chinatown, Hayes Valley, there's Golden Gate Bridge, places that I remembered but also had to visit. And then that's when pen came to paper. In my case, I used Procreate digitally, so I would sketch out a storyboarding phase, so looking through the stories in squares, and then page by page, drawing what I think might, the scene might look like. And then there was revisions with Rebecca around, okay, does the scene look okay? Does it stay true to the story? Because it was really important for me to maintain the integrity of the story. And then from there, did some color digitally, and then from there, I'm a watercolor artist typically, and so all of the imagery you see here, they're hand watercolored. So that's kind of the full process, and then I scan the images and then send them over to Rebecca and the Grace Cathedral team, and then they do their magic, and you have a book. So that's the kind of the short of it.
I love the fact that it's hand-drawn and that it's watercolors. It's just feels so much more human somehow when it's created that way. It's lovely.
Yeah, I think the tactile nature of watercolor and being able to kind of paint with intuition and kind of freedom was what I loved to do, and I think you'll find some of that in the book.
And we have a question here.
Hi there, Ellen. So I was thinking about where you got your creative process from. European history is obviously very inspiring when it comes to churches. And the opportunity, I think, to integrate the past with the present, taking, London versus San Francisco, not a versus perspective, but you know what I mean. And so I would love to just hear a little bit about how that might have influenced your word choice, name choice, what took place, and anything that kind of just pops to mind.
I think the name choice was definitely because of Grace Cathedral, and I love grace as a word, as a concept. It's sort of so central to how I think about who God is, the sort of graciousness of God, and the gracefulness of cats. One thing that's an inspiration, though you wouldn't know it from the text, is and I've forgotten, I shall praise my cat Geoffrey. Can you remember who the poet is? It's a beautiful meditation on cats praising God just by being who they are and prancing around and dancing. And so something of that sort of instinctual way that animals just are who God created them to be. So I think that's part of the reason I love cats and part of the sort of inspiration for this. And maybe just one more question, because I know we're getting into lunchtime and we want to sign some books.
Thank you so much. It's such a joy to have you here. As someone who loves pink, I wanted to know about your choice of rose and pink in the book. It's wonderful.
That's a great question. At first I did paint the cathedral, and I thought, there's something more. There's something more for the cover. And I've noticed during the spring, there are cherry blossoms outside the cathedral, and when they burst, they're stunning. And I thought, okay, I will paint, the cherry blossoms, and there's some liveliness to that. And so that's where it came from.
And just one thing to say, there is, I am in the process of writing a college cat book for kings. So they have a sanctuary program there which welcomes in scholars and academics from war-torn countries. So we're just working on a story there about a cat called Oi at the beginning of the book and Campus by the end of the book. So there will be another cat coming around.
Thanks very much to Ellen and to Natalie. They are now going to be moving to the table just in front of you to sign books. Books are available for sale behind me by the baptismal font. And Natalie's original artworks are available to take a look at for anybody who'd like to see these. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.